This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. The number of cases for this is increasing every year. Many different reasons. Most of it is our lifestyle. And I'm referring to diabetes. And when you are diagnosed, all different types, especially type 2, medication is prescribed and lifestyle changes are made. And that can be all good. But imagine looking at it through a holistic lens and maybe some things that can be done that you don't have to take the same meds or you don't have to deal with certain side effects. We're going to talk about that today with a certified functional medicine practitioner, also a nutritionist. Kind of comes in handy when it comes to diabetes. So great to have Lori Graham on the program once again. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk about this because it plagues so many people.
It really does. And as we're talking about it initially here, I'm scanning my mind and thinking of those people in my world that have diabetes and some of the things that they're dealing with on a chronic level. I wonder if they were talking with you and looked at this through the lens of functional medicine, that maybe life would be a little bit different instead of popping pills. Nothing wrong with medication if it supports and works for you. But there are alternatives. And as we identified last time we got together back in the day, they used to call this alternative medicine. So where do we begin with diabetes?
Well, first understanding that it is perhaps the one most actionable aspect of our health that we can improve with diet and lifestyle changes. That's number one. Number two, the effect of glucose on the inner lining of our blood vessels is profound and almost scary. And the first time I ever read about this, I was horrified that when your blood sugar spikes up about 150, 160, you actually scrape the inner lining of that blood vessel. And that blood vessel has endothelial. It's called the endothelium. Why? It's like our skin on our hand. It's the inside of that blood vessel. And then there's something, I love this word, it's called the glycocalyx. And it is like a fuzzy, hair-like structure that's supposed to keep the LDL, the HDL, like kind of moving through the blood vessel without sticking. But what happens is a spike in blood sugar, it can literally penetrate through those two barriers and scratch the inner lining, which opens us up for what's called atherosclerosis.
Lori, I may never eat ice cream ever again.
Well, ice cream has fat in it, so it's blocked by the fat. So the blood sugar rise might not be as much.
All right. I don't drink soda, an occasional diet soda, occasional as a treat, actually. But I would imagine if you have a can of insert name of soda, you're sucking down 49 grams of carbs and there's no fat in there. And that probably is wreaking havoc within your arteries. Oh my gosh. Like I had no idea.
Scary.
It really is. like
it's
eye opener.
How about this? As we get older, our hemoglobin A1C tracks higher. So there are even probiotics that help. There are fibers that help. There's walking after meals that help. There's wearing a CGM on your arm that it's a continuous glucose monitor that tells you like what your meal did to your blood sugar.
Wow.
And you can do things like change the order of which you're eating your food. It sometimes does mean you got to get out, some junky food. But if you're eating real food, sometimes it's just a matter of curbing that rise by changing the order with which we eat our food and going for a walk.
Let's go to the beginning here. And this is fairly common and even more so recently when somebody goes for labs and they get a little surprise with the term pre-diabetic. What does that mean and what should you do? And is that like a precursor, like, oh yeah, diabetes coming your way, hang on?
So pre-diabetic, so having a hemoglobin A1C of 5.7 is pre-diabetic to about 6.2. And the problem, though, is most doctors don't look at your fasting insulin. Your fasting insulin actually gives you a whole lot more information because ideally it should be below 3, ideally below 5. Okay, but we see people 9, 10, 11, and it just means your pancreas might not be working as well also. So we need to know what we need to address.
In 40 seconds, you gave more information to me than any doctor ever did. And there was a time where I was, came up as pre-diabetic. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Some changes, and then it came down. It's been about a year or so. I'm due for labs again, hoping for the best. You never know. Is it essentially in the pre-diabetic stage, lifestyle changes, diet changes that can fend that off?
Absolutely. In fact, I would say even there's a term, we say brittle diabetics, and those are people that have been, with hemoglobin A1Cs in the 9s and the 11s for a long time, and you start to see the nervous system effects, the low vision, the tingling. That's a more brittle diabetic. You can improve that. You definitely can improve it. But anybody who's, I would say, 6.8 and down is probably reversible. I've had people, though, come from like 9.5 down to 6.5 and be able to get off their meds.
Wow. They don't tell you this stuff typically. And this is where, and going back to last time we got together, the doctor on average has 11 minutes to spend with you. So
Right.
They're not going into the deep detail of these numbers. They're going to do what they need to do. It's almost like the ship's taking on water, going to plug that hole. They're not going to do any more than that. And what typically ensues? Medication for diabetes to bring it down, whatever it might be. Now let's fast forward type 2 diabetes and how that looks, especially in terms of the medication and potential side effects.
Oh, I mean, it's crazy. First of all, we get mineral depletion. We get some stomach problems. We change our microbiome. Our immune system gets weak, and so, while metformin probably doesn't carry the extent of side effects as something like insulin would, that's scary. Once you get on insulin, I had a patient who was in her mid-70s when she came to me, and she wanted to become an expat. And her glucose, her hemoglobin A1C was up around 9.2. And she was desperate because she wanted to be on her sailboat in a middle American country. So literally in 10 days, and I'm really talking in 10 days, just eating low carb, and she kept up her alcohol, but just eating low carb. And she was already wearing a CGM all the time, so she was supposed to track, but she was on insulin. One day she called me, 10 days in. She said, Lori, my blood sugar is about 120 now, and I'm about to eat dinner. It was 120. It's phenomenal.
Wow.
And she said, what happens if I take my insulin? I said, you need to call your doctor right now and you need to ask your doctor what they want to do because they may titrate you down a notch or they may tell you not to take it. Well, she didn't call the doctor. And she called me in the morning and she said, my blood sugar's really low. It's about 50. I said, did you call your doctor? She said, no, I took my insulin.
Ooh.
So then came the mad rush. I said, don't you have like the tube of glucose or do you have any grapes? What do you have? And she was living at a friend's house because she was in transition to go live down in middle America. So, at any rate, she
Mm.
found saltwater taffy of all things and her blood sugar normalized. She never looked back.
Wow. 10 days. My gosh.
10 days.
So you said a word.
I'm still working on her to get her blood sugar controlled more by giving up the alcohol.
There it is. There it is. Let's go there. I just said, you said the word, that the word was alcohol. Many doing a dry January. So I figured, let's bring that up. I don't drink. I'll have a couple. I like craft beer. I'll have a couple of beers here and there on the weekend. I love the flavor. It could be non-alcohol beer, and I drink that too. I just love the flavor.
Right.
So I'm doing a moist January, not a dry January, a moist January. What does that mean? 2 beers a week, maybe. What does that do? Alcohol. What does that do to blood sugar, potential diabetes situations, all of that?
So alcohol like that, like softer alcohol, and even wine will potentially lower your blood sugar, but then you're going to get the cravings and the, oh my God, I need to eat and I need to get my blood sugar up. And it's one of those weird things that I've seen. But if you did something like a Manhattan, you're on the other side of the scale and it goes way up.
All right. Well, all right. I need to process this a little bit better.
Yeah.
Did I hear you say that the lighter type alcohol, maybe a glass of wine, can lower your blood sugar?
Yeah, but it's an artificial, like it's an artificial lowering. That's the thing I'm a little concerned about when I have patients that drink, because you will ultimately, people who are diabetic can swing high, they can swing low.
Hmm.
And when you go low, then you have to eat sugar and then you're caught in that hamster wheel. But if you wanted to have your beer, but you had it after a meal versus starting your meal, that would be a whole different story.
In what way?
It just wouldn't change anything. If you have a Manhattan while you're sitting and waiting for your dinner, you've got damage control to do. But if you had a beer with, I don't know, some nuts, not a lot would happen.
Interesting. Wow. And here's the other interesting part. Alcohol consumption is plummeting right now. A lot of people aren't drinking. Yeah, many have theories where, people can use other things to escape or feel a certain way, CBD,
Right.
THC, gummies, whatever it might be. A lot cheaper too. But craft cocktails on the other side of that are a thing now, where you go somewhere, you can spend $15+ on one cocktail, but what's in that? A bunch of other stuff that's full of sweets with the alcohol, and now you have the cyclone bomb
Right.
of a drink, and I got to imagine that's going to be spiking things. Final question on alcohol in general, in your opinion. Considered a toxin to our bodies by many. I'm open to anything you're going to say. If we want to poo-poo alcohol and say don't ever do it, okay, fine. What are your thoughts in general there?
So I love that our government came out with no alcohol is good, but we are a social community and having alcohol, I think, has to be seen in the cauldron of insults to our health. So I like to think of, and I may have said this last time, like my cup runneth over. We have many insults that we deal with. We live in a more toxic world. Our food might be genetically engineered. We're, I don't know, we're on screens all the time, whatever it is. And everybody has a different threshold at which their health takes a hit. Okay. So alcohol is a drain on your liver in the sense that your liver has to metabolize it out of your body. How many other things are you doing that your liver has to protect you from, whether it's your cleaning supplies in your house, the products you use on your body, the clothing you wear? We're concerned about that now again, like jeggings for women, you know what I mean? Or polyurethane shirts. Like, how much are we detoxifying for? And then in functional medicine, we always consider the bio individuality component of it, meaning that some people are born with what we call genetic single nucleotide polymorphism, SNPs for short, meaning that we may be missing the cofactor that helps forward the action of our liver enzymes, for example, like how we detoxify.
What I'm detecting here is that, and correct me if need be, having a little bit of alcohol, not so much a big deal. However, when you add that to the other things that is compromising our body, the pesticides in foods, all the other stuff that's going on there, it's just one more thing that needs to be added to it. What about you always hear, back in the day, glass of wine is okay for you. It's good for your heart health, blah, 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 blah. Is any of that stuff true anymore?
You would have to drink so much wine to get the polyphenols that they are talking about being good for us. And I think context is everything. So sure, you're going out with some friends for dinner, you have a glass of wine in the context of a solid meal that's made healthfully with vegetable forward, lots of fiber. You're not fighting any medical conditions, all good. It's context. It is context. And, for some people, it's just easier to say, I'm not drinking anymore.
Yeah. And I find personally, short of people that have addiction issues, put that over to the side, it's habitual. I go out, hang out with my friends, I'm usually drinking something.
Right.
So I just change it up to seltzer water. Yeah. Can I have a seltzer water?
They have drinks now that you infuse with CBD. Have you seen that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
My son shared that with my daughter-in-law, my stepdaughter rather, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah. It depends on what your goal is. I don't drink to get a buzz. I like the flavor, but I also like the carbonation too. I get it from seltzer water, so I just change that up, and it's just
I don't get any money for this. There's a great company that makes mushroom, like longevity mushrooms in a root beer flavor. Oh, it's our favorite. It's called Jing, Jing. And you put like a few drops in your seltzer and you have like a root beer drink. And they have different flavors.
And what does that do for your health?
Well, the mushrooms are really associated with longevity and cognition.
Sure.
So why not?
They're also having a psychedelic
I didn't mean those kind of mushrooms.
I got you. But I'm talking mushrooms in general. There's a lot of positivity coming out there. So that stuff, again, just names. It's called Jing, and if you add that to whatever you're drinking, you might get some health benefits from it.
And it won't boost your blood sugar.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go to some of the challenges that people with diabetes have. For example, neuropathy. I hear that a lot. I have a friend that deals with that, chronic conditions like that. Some suggestions on how to deal with things like that?
So neuropathy is one thing that I saw a lot of when I was an occupational therapist back in the day. And what's the downstream of that? Well, getting a wound on your foot and not knowing you have a wound.
Mm,
How about not feeling the soles of your feet and then a lack of balance?
mm.
Those are even more serious. And further down the pike, after the neuropathy, comes your kidneys failing and dialysis. So that's tough.
How do you get those chronic situations coming from diabetes? What can you do from a holistic standpoint, if anything?
Well, I think of the inflammation and think about what I described at the top of the show about the scratching of the vessel wall. So think about your blood vessels becoming brittle. So there are some products that help build out and protect the endothelium. I would recommend that for somebody who had neuropathy. B vitamins are helpful. They don't change things, but they're a little bit helpful. Movement and exercise, so important.
Mm.
And lowering your blood sugar.
Is
Again, we can improve, like your friend, they can improve. They may not totally recover, but they can improve and stop the progression.
would you say, and from what I remember, my friend with diabetes neuropathy, it isn't so much the numbness; it's more of like shoulder pain, things like that. That is challenging for them.
That might be secondary. I don't believe that's associated with elevated blood sugar, but the same things that cause, like the high processed food kind of diets, the
Mm.
lean into the cakes and the pretzels and the chips and things of that nature, can also cause an inflammatory cascade of biochemical pathways to be activated and cause joint pain.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned exercise a few times. Would you say any situation, certainly for diabetes, that is, I don't want to say impactful, but essential to make sure you are moving your body somehow?
I think even with exercise, again, it is an aging phenomenon. We get older and we have, the people that exercise and are lean and, have decent muscle can get elevated hemoglobin A1C because it's literally a pillar of what happens when we age. So we have to, in my mind, the way I look at it is like you have to pull all the levers. So for someone who's doing all the right things and that happens, build more muscle, change the order of the food and the way you're consuming it.
Mm. I'm
You know,
seeing more and
look,
more.
stress is a huge thing. When
Uh,
I work CGM, because I'm not, but my hemoglobin A1C snuck up and, I'm 69, it snuck up. And so I have to lean into the probiotics, the fiber, but I lift weights now because muscle is a depository for glucose.
mm,
And we
wow.
build less muscle as we age, right? So we got to really work hard. We got to pull all the levers.
All right, I'm going to the gym tomorrow. Leave me alone.
Walk up and down the stairs if we get a snowstorm.
Well, or shovel, but careful.
Careful, right.
What an education, Lori. Thank you for all the insight. This is what you do. How do we reach out to you?
Well, You can reach out to me by phone, 203-829-5349. My email, Lori, Lori, at Nutrify, Nutrify, OURLIFE, Nutrify Your Life. So not two Y's, but just one Y.
Gotcha. Lorify your life too, because you are, again, that just 40 seconds before you gave so much information in terms of levels. I never heard that from any doctor. It was like, yeah, anybody could have looked at the results, because every test, every lab tells you if you're above certain thresholds, and I'm going to go on medications. That's not giving you the full picture. It's your health. You need the full picture, and you can do this virtually for anybody, anywhere, which is the beauty of it. Thank you so much for the insight today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
And we'll talk soon. Hey, by the way, got a question or a comment? Instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. Would love to hear it.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.